Mr. MacDougal, is America for Bulgaria Foundation the prolonged arm of American foreign policy in Bulgaria?
That's ridiculous. What we are is a group of people wanting to help Bulgaria in its most important challenges. And we have an independent board of directors. And if you go on our website, you can look it up. And you can see these are independent thinkers from all parts of the U.S. We've got journalists, we've got business people. These are the people that decide what the best priority is for Bulgaria. And we have nothing to do with whatever the foreign policy of the U.S. is. We're here for what is best for Bulgaria.
But did the foundation inform government change last year by supporting prominent protesters?
That's ridiculous.
Again.
I don't mean you're ridiculous, I just mean the question is ridiculous. I think what we have here is evidence that we're becoming effective. People are noticing that we're doing good things, and not everybody wants us to do good things. We're here to fight corruption, we're here to help strengthen the education system, we're here to help the disadvantaged. We want to help recapture Bulgaria's wonderful heritage, such as the basilica that we funded in Plovdiv. So we're here to do good, positive things. Now we want America to get some credit for it because we are Americans who have come over here and spent a lot of time here. I've been coming for 20 years. We want to get some credit for America because we are Americans helping our friends in Bulgaria, but to be an arm of the foreign policy is something that I guess people who are not appreciative of what we're doing are saying, but it's not true.
But some people really perceive that you have a hidden agenda. Do you want something particularly to change here?
Our agenda is on our website. All you have to do is look it up, americaforbulgaria.org. And our agenda is right there, plain for all to see. It's something we look at once a year to make sure it's updated, and it's something that guides us. Change, yes. We would like to help the people of Bulgaria eliminate the corruption that infects the country. That is a tough challenge, but we want to help on it. We are funding Transparency International. We're funding a lot of objective organizations that just want clean, positive government that helps the people, not certain people who are benefiting from government that shouldn't be. So that's what we're all about.
But where all the money come from?
Well, that's an interesting story, and that also is on our website. But when the wall came down and when the communist countries needed to learn about free markets, a fund was established by the U.S. government to help teach young people about entrepreneurism, about how to start businesses, how to have free markets that weren't controlled by, in the old way, by the government. And that $50 million was invested in a lot of businesses that are visible all around Bulgaria. One of the largest chicken farms we supported that is now supplying Europe. Good exports for Bulgaria. That would not have existed if it weren't for our investment. Happy Chicken around the country, which I say is a combination, anybody who's been to our country, of Hooters and Kentucky Fried Chicken. You know, attractive young ladies serving good food in an atmosphere that's fun. That was funded by our foundation, our fund initially. And that grew into a large amount of money, almost $450 million. And that was put into our foundation. And the foundation is really your foundation. It's a foundation for Bulgarians. It's called the America for Bulgaria Foundation. That's where the money came from. It was invested in Bulgaria. It grew. It was put into a foundation. And the foundation is for Bulgaria.
But why do you and your colleagues still volunteer for Bulgaria for more than 20 years? Do you feel discouraged? Do you feel tired? Do you feel depressed?
Well, it's not easy, I have to tell you. But we care. We've learned to like the Bulgarian people. We've learned that the cause is important. So we feel we're doing worthwhile work. And when you've had success in other businesses and other activities, as most of our board has, you feel a need to give back. And I am working on a project. I've written one book, I don't need to mention here, but
Poverty, about poverty.
About poverty.
Yeah.
And I'm working on the second book that has to do with choices you make in life for happiness. And number 3, after family and friends, is helping other people in terms of what makes people happy. So I'm lucky, and our board is lucky, to be in a position to give back, to help other people. And so that's why we do it.
Education, is it the main topic because we are here in auditorium of Sofia University, or it's a secondary topic for you?
It's one of our very primary topics. Education, corruption. It's hard to really pick what is the most important. Yeah. Each of our 6 areas has a very important function, and they all fit together. So education, and I'm really excited. I saw this hall before it was renovated, and we put $1,200,000 into the hall, and to see it transformed with the LED lights under the desks and the beautiful woodwork and the high-tech technology teaching tools, very exciting. And we know that lots of Bulgarians, important Bulgarians, pass through this hall. And the idea that we were able to help transform this is very exciting and makes me happy. That's one of the reasons we do this sort of thing.
Yeah, you're writing the book about happiness. Maybe you will discover why Bulgarians are so unhappy and pessimistic.
Well, you know, I've seen those surveys, and there's much to be worried about. And Bulgaria's been in a very difficult part of the world, as they say, a difficult neighborhood. And so there's a history of these difficulties. There's the Ottomans, and then there's the communists, and it's been a tough, tough history. And I can't say that if I wasn't, through the accident of birth, I didn't have to live through that history. I don't know how I would feel, but I guess I understand it, and I want to change it.
You yourself were advising George Bush Sr. in '88. Do you think politics have a sinister side?
Well, you know, you mentioned him. He is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He is so kind. You talk to the White House staff that served when he was there, and they say this is one of the greatest guys, and they treat each other as partners. He invites them down to baseball games when he was president of the United States, and a fellow was a steward in the White House. He is not a sinister person. He is an uplifting person. He's kind. So there we are. But you're running for president of the United States. That's a tough business. Politics, as they say, politics ain't beanbag. So you have to put yourself in a position, a confrontational position with your opponent. That's, I don't think, sinister, but it is difficult and unpleasant.
You, as a Republican politician in Chicago, watched the present president from the other side, Mr. Obama, who also comes from Chicago.
He sure does.
Yeah, but what's the secret of his success? Because he was on the other side of you.
Well, that's true. And in fact, my first book on poverty, he was a junior senator in the minority. And I saw him at an event in Washington when he'd become a senator, a U.S. senator. And he said, Gary, you know, I've read your book. I've got it in my library. And I felt honored that the U.S. senator had read my book and it was in his library. I said, what did you think? I said, what did you think? He said, well, I really liked it, but you didn't put my name in it. And I said, well, you were a junior senator in the minority. If I'd known you were going to get to be so important, I would have put it in anyway. But the thing about him, he is spellbinding as a speaker. He is very shrewd. His political skills are in a class by himself. I frankly think he didn't have the proper experience to be president of the United States because he'd been only for a brief period in the Illinois State Legislature, a brief period in the U.S. Senate, and because of those skills, those political skills, he became president of the United States. And in my mind, that was not as much qualification as a president of the United States ought to have, particularly given how complicated the world is these days.
But back to your book on poverty. Do you have the magic bullet for ending it in Bulgaria?
Boy, if there's one thing there isn't for poverty, whether it's Bulgaria or the U.S., is a magic,
Magic
bullet. Right. It's very complex. I mean, I've been working in the poverty area at least half-time or more since I sold my company for 20 years. And there are a lot of pieces of the puzzle. Education is a piece of the puzzle. I believe in equal opportunity, not equal outcomes. Big difference. Equal opportunity. And to have equal opportunity, you've got to have schools. You've got to have a school that is accessible, that's good. Some of us had a good break. I didn't have a great school, but I had okay schools. And without that, you don't have a chance. You need to come from a family that teaches you from a very young age that the connection between going to school and having a better life, a happy life, is an essential connection. But if nobody in your family has seen that connection, if nobody in your neighborhood, nobody you know has seen that connection, you're unlikely to care about school. So those are just two of the, I could go on and you don't have enough time in this program, pieces of the puzzle in moving people from poverty into the world as we know it. But it's so important, and you know, there's no magic bullet in the US either. There's still 46 million people in poverty. However, we've made some very good progress. The welfare rolls have declined from 12 million to 4 million. I think if we can do it in the US, at least make a good start on it, and in particularly Illinois, which is one of the best performers, it can be done in Bulgaria, because Bulgaria is only 2/3 the size of Illinois. So those of us who are tenacious and optimistic think it's very doable here, and it's one of the activities of our foundation. America for Bulgaria Foundation has funded what I think is probably the largest NGO focused totally on moving Roma into the world as we know it, without which Bulgaria is going to be in trouble down the line. Just look at the demographics.
But let's go, at the end, let's go again to the beginning. Do you have an answer why is it so hard for people to love America these days in the last years?
I think a lot of people love America. I mean, I do a lot of what I call mother-in-law research. You know, people you meet on the street, people you meet when you're having dinner. I think the feeling toward America is really quite positive. But there are a vocal minority whose activities, let's call them, are threatened by the American way, by the openness, by transparency, by the lack of corruption. And those people have a lot of money. Let's call them oligarchs. How's that for a name? They are threatened by transparency. They're threatened by free speech. And then there's this fellow Putin. He has an agenda, and his agenda is what some call asymmetrical warfare, or a way of co-opting a country without sending tanks across the border. You know, have them eliminate fracking so that you're dependent on Gazprom. Good strategy. Have people dependent on Moscow economically. Good strategy.
But do you sincerely believe America is nothing to blame?
Oh, we're not perfect. I mean, God knows we've got 300 million people. We've got politicians swarming, fighting each other. I mean, I can give you a list of problems America has. But that doesn't mean we're evil, and it doesn't mean that we don't have a very warm feeling and a positive agenda for Bulgaria. And just think about it. The America for Bulgaria Foundation is the largest foundation in the Balkans, and it was created by Americans for Bulgaria. We're unpaid all this time. We care. So if that's not a good reason to think that Americans are pretty decent people, albeit not perfect, I know maybe you're perfect, but I know I'm not.
Thank you very much, Gary.